Hold on. So if you want to get 30 minutes, this is your time. You can do as long as you want to. And you should be able to connect to your
Wow. Okay. Choose it to your audience. All right. All right, I'm going to turn my phone off.
Okay.
I take it you can hear me on the.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I'm checking.
We are live, Elder. We're live.
Well, so glad, so good to be with you, man. So good
Yes,
to
sir.
be with you.
I appreciate you agreeing to come on. If you don't mind, if you can say a prayer before we get started, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to. Father God, we love you. We thank you for the love you give us to share. We thank you for the common unity that we have in our faith in you. And Father, I pray, oh God, that you'd lead us and that, Father, we would give voice, Lord God, to the souls of Birmingham. Father, there's a silent cry that's going out that nobody is hearing. I pray, oh God, that you would use us to give voice to those silent cries. And we say, so let it be in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I wanted to have you come on, and whenever you're available, what I'm going to do is send you the link. So when you're able, what happened? You still there? There we go. You're back.
Hey, brother, did I lose you?
Are you there? I see you. There you are.
All right. All right.
But I wanted to have you on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you the link every morning, and when you're available, if you can just click in, because I think this is a time, especially with what the situation that we're going through, the issues and the problems that, and then I think that I'm being selfish too, because I know that you're running for district, was it 52?
Yes, I am running for District 52, and I'm doing that. But then again, I also want us to remember that I am a citizen as well.
Right, correct.
And that I'm not just out here running as a politician. I'm really running as a neighbor, right? And so I want to give vent to the silent cries of the Western District of Birmingham, you know, and so just really a view from the grassroots of the Western District of Birmingham. And I got to tell you, man, it's man, I'm crying tears, man, and then I'm smiling big, and then I'm cheering on people that are persevering anyway, you know. And so that's been pretty cool, and it's been gut-wrenching to where I had days of just prayer And so I thought it would be great, man, just to share just a little bit about what I'm seeing, right?
Now, is District 52, is that one of the largest districts in
And
Jefferson County?
well, I tell you what, it is not, and I'll tell you how that thing goes. Um, Without a, and I'm sitting here thinking, give me one quick second, right? Because I'm just focusing on how do we give a voice to those without a voice or
Right.
a platform. And I want to say thank you for being willing. Thank you for being willing to allow your platform to be used to give voice to those people that don't have a voice and those that don't have a platform. So I want to say thank you as well. District 52, the way that they do it, they divide up all of the House districts in the state of Alabama to where each has about 47,000 people to represent. And so they're all pretty much about the same size. This House District 52 runs from Fairfield, and which is interesting, the most underserved side of Fairfield, the Miles College side. And it goes into Bellevue Heights, which is one of the flagship communities of the Five Points West community, into Central Park, which has become a low moderate income area, into Green Acres, and then it goes over into Southwest Birmingham at 31st Street, from Jones Valley Middle School, coming over and going up Jefferson Avenue where Greater Shiloh is, and going over the bridge, and then you've got this Western district over here, Southwest District, Oakwood Place, and then you're going on into Titusville and More Than Conquerors, and then you have another affluent community over to the right, Heritage, and then we go into Homewood, and we've got 4 areas in Homewood, and then we go into Mountain Brook, English Village. We have about half of English Village in Birmingham Zoo, and those things, and Botanical Gardens, and then we come down Carlisle into Highland Avenue and the Arlington community, and then we go over from Ramsey to the Mountain, and then down skimming the mountain, going down Green Springs Road, we have that Green Springs, and then Valley Avenue. So it's a pretty diverse community.
So each community has its own type of issues and concerns.
They do.
Because when you go over the mountain, you hit Mountain Brook and Homewood. This situation is going to be totally different than over there where Fairfield and Green Acres and all are.
Well, so here's the amazing thing on what's happening in Homewood and what's happening in the Western District of Jefferson County. Both groups are concerned and scared that they will not be able to, on the Western District, finish their lives in their communities because the communities are collapsing and decaying around them. So as I go through this side of Fairfield has some wonderful communities, but Interurban Heights, this side has been severely neglected. The alleyways are overgrown. Because the alleyways are overgrown, the utility companies have a hard time getting to the infrastructure.
Right.
So that makes it more difficult for people to want to invest in those homes that are there. And so you've got entire homes that are just sitting there overgrown behind this forest of trees and stuff, because you can't see the home from the front, nor can you get to it from the back. But then you're finding people that are still taking care of their homes, man, and fighting. They've retired. Don't forget the Children's March started right there in Inner Urban Heights. I don't know if you knew that.
Wow. I didn't
Those
know that.
students came down from miles, man. And that's and they call that the genesis of the Children's March, and went on into Inslee, and around by Holy Family, and so going down there in Inslee and started picking up the high school students from Inslee or Jackson Olin and the Holy Family, and then coming down, and that's where the kids start coming. They start jumping out of windows, and the teachers, I remember William Bell saying his teacher said, "No, you can't go." And some of the kids, he said, jumped out of the window and went. And so that area that meant so much to the civil rights movement is in a battle and a fight for themselves with abandoned and vacant properties. And they need the legislature. So the seniors that are there, they're concerned about whether or not this neighborhood will collapse on them.
Right.
Before they transition. The same thing I'm seeing throughout the Western District. They're just not as far as that Inner Urban Heights is. So when I go into Titusville and you're seeing these beautifully manicured lots and people with so much history, man, it's amazing. But they're seeing these blighted properties coming up. And everywhere you have a blighted property, it devalues every dollars, which means it takes money away from our schools, right, the ad valorem tax. And when you get over into Homewood, it's a little different. The kids that grew up in Homewood, they're realizing and that are now starting their families that they don't have a Homewood to come back to. The corporations are buying up the land and the houses and moving the old houses out of Homewood, these smaller ones, and building these $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 homes, right, that middle-class young white kids can't afford.
Correct.
So even though they're third generation, fourth generation Homewood, they're realizing that they are about to be priced out of the market. The same way you've got the urban Black communities that are concerned about being priced out of the markets in Woodlawn and Avondale and Titusville. The same thing is happening in Homewood, brother.
Wow.
These kids have history and stories of growing up in Homewood. And there's a chance they will not be able to raise their children there. And so they're saying, what can we do to preserve affordability? It's like being in New York and we're talking about rent control, right?
Right, right.
What do we do for, these people that want to stay in those geographical areas, but they don't have affordable housing, but we grew up there?
Right.
The trauma is the same as those that are in the urban areas where regentrification is happening. What happened to the indigenous people of the area now that the gentry has returned to Homewood, has returned to Birmingham and to Fairfield? Where do they go for affordable housing? So that's my district. Those are some of the concerns that are in common. In District 52, on the Western District, those neighborhoods that are filled with retirees and seniors, they are living under siege almost right now, barely wanting to come to the door and answer it. It is that senior, their dog, and that 45.
Wow.
And I'm hearing over and over again, I hardly go anywhere, maybe to church or to the gym or to the grocery store. But for the most part, they are confined to their homes. It shouldn't be that way, Oz.
No, no.
So that's District 52. That's what I've seen, man. It's a tough situation. But I've seen the thing that got me was Fairfield, brother. That in interurban Heights, you would think that things are so bad in some sections that they would want to give up, but they got something in there. There's something in the water of interurban Heights,
right,
man, where those folks are still looking towards a better future. They have not made peace with it, man. And as I walked through there and I talked to them, they told me the stories. They said, we want more, we want more, we deserve more. For whatever reason, that was one of the most encouraging areas for me, because they had every reason to give up. But those people in interurban Heights and Fairfield, the neighbors that live behind the buildings where my business is, my ministry is,
right,
those folks, man,
because they have a vested interest.
better.
And see, that's what everybody has to understand. You have to have a vested interest. You have to have that love, because the love is there. They just need some type of assistance. They need some type of well, they have encouragement, but you just need more encouragement, and you just need to make sure that you have somebody who has a vested interest and not a selfish interest.
Well, I heard an old civil rights warrior say to me one time. He said, I know that they say that racism and prejudice is gone, and all that's left is the vestiges of slavery. And he said, if that's the case, can I please get some help with these vestiges? And so I think that people are asking for a little help with these vestiges, man.
Yes, sir.
There are things we can do, though, from the state legislature. There are things we can make sure that the land bank is being used in a way to help the people prosper, the neighbors prosper, our schools prosper, and not just the investors, not just the attorneys, not just the real estate agents. I believe that there's a way that we can do both. And so by joining with the legislators from Jefferson County delegation, by working with the departments in Montgomery, we can make sure that we keep the people first, that we put them to the forefront. You know, don't make them have to cut the yard next door without having an adopt-a-lot program.
Right.
Right. Don't make them have to do that. And don't make them, these seniors and others, have to cut the yard to keep the rodents from infesting the yard next door and flowing over into their property.
Right.
If we use the land bank correctly, then what we can do, we can literally begin to clean up our neighborhoods, remove the blighted property. As I said, if it's on your block, $8,400 per house. On my block in Inslee, that's 22 houses times 8,400.
Oh, wow.
All right. Now, that's a lot. That's a lot. And imagine that across the Western District, on how much more money would be made available to schools.
Correct. Right.
To fund the cheerleading programs, to fund the after-school activity, to fund the band and the arts and the like. We don't have to have another tax referendum. We can just clean up the communities.
Can you explain what the land bank is for those who don't know?
So the land bank is an authority that was created on what to do with the properties that were in communities. And so the revenue department, before, the counties were sending thousands of properties with overdue taxes to the state revenue department. And the revenue department would hold them and And so if you wanted to buy a tax delinquent property, you'd have to go to the state revenue. And the Land Bank Authority was supposed to be an entity that helped to clean those properties up and put them back on the tax rolls again. So that if an investor came and they wanted to clean up the property, then it was going to be great, because it would cause the housing values to go up, and it would remove blight from our communities. And so the land bank was supposed to wipe out all of the back taxes that are owed with the state. They would forgive it. And then you needed the county and the city to cooperate and remove all the liens and everything on those properties. And then what happens is that we are able to, then those neighbors can adopt the lot next to them, or not only adopting the lot next to them, they could buy the property next to them, fix it up. And the incentive for fixing it up would be to get it back on the market so that everybody wins.
Right.
And so that's what the Land Bank Authority was created for. Now the county owns those properties the way that they're doing it now. The counties are able to get it. And so in the original Land Bank Authority, the Land Bank Authority legislation, the Land Bank Authority was supposed to be a clearinghouse. The Land Bank in Birmingham is no longer a clearinghouse, but it has cherry-picked the best of the properties and put them into a little land trust almost.
Oh.
And so now when you've got neighbors that are up in what we used to call Bice Hills or Fountain Heights that want to redevelop the properties, they can't. Because properties that are overlooking the city, the land bank has cherry-picked them, put them to the side, and you got a guy that applied for a property 6 years ago, and the land bank hadn't moved on it because they have other plans for the redevelopment of it. So an entity that was supposed to serve the community is now being the big brother. They are now being the, I got to think of a nice way to say it, but they are now saying we have control of Birmingham, the property in Birmingham, and Big Brother is going to do with what we want to do with it.
So that's what, like, is that? First of all, let me do a disclaimer. Anything that I say does not mean that Elder Woodson agrees with it.
Absolutely.
Let me put that out there. So this is disclaimer.
Absolutely.
So basically, not basically, the service, like an overseer. We own this. You have to come through us, and so you have to play by our rules.
Now, the thing about it is that this administration, they have picked the Land Bank Authority. Now, it's not supposed to be a governmental entity, but they basically control it and influence it, and it's basically ran out of City Hall. It wasn't originally designed to be run by politicians. Politicians have special interests other than the welfaring of the people.
Right.
And so, be it the Housing Authority board, you're supposed to have a resident on there who is reflective of the values of the people. Willene Body has been working in work programs and in the public housing for years, but they won't put her on that board, even though the people want her on that board, because she's outspoken. She's not impossible to work with. She just says that this isn't right.
Right.
She's not outspoken. She's not unruly to work with. She just will ask the question, what happened to the residents of Southtown? Did we help relocate them in Birmingham, or did we push them away from the bus system, public transportation, and push them out in Center Point somewhere to where they are on an island?
And that's what they've done.
And she doesn't want to do that. I mean, they don't want her on there to ask those questions. And so we've got to be willing to ask these questions, man. And those people don't have a voice. Nobody's going to give them a microphone or platform. The people that you're going to see in the forefront are going to be people that are from the community, that are the grandchildren of those that march, that will be the face of the depopulation and the displacement of these folks. And they don't know that that's what's happening. They don't know that this is the 12th time that poor Black folks have been displaced because the property where they were herded to the first time, after they took the South Side community where UAB is and where Cooper Green is, that was South Side.
Right.
They took it. They took it for good reason, to eliminate blight. So they have these blight removal projects. And then they come and they tell you, well, you know, the housing projects weren't meant for you to live in forever. Well, really they were. When there was redlining going on, there was no other place to go.
Right.
If there was some other place to go for the working poor, then we wouldn't have had to send them to Center Point and places like this. Oz, we need people that are going to look for good policy for the people and to give voice to those that have no voice, and guys like you to give platform to people that have no platform. And it starts by the representation: city council, county commissioner, state house of representatives, state senators, our U.S. congressman that represents the broader 7th district, and then our 2 state senators. When they sit down at the table to do the deal, they've got to have the people on their mind. And right now they don't. Right. And I'm offering my services in the public sector in order to make sure that the people have a voice. Because if they don't have a voice, they don't have a choice in what happens to them.
See, that's one reason why I'm most, you have a lot of individuals who run on the coattail of their relatives, and the relatives have the stellar reputation in the community. They have receipts. They worked in the community. They've built that rapport. They have that relationship. So now what I call the name brands, you have these younger generation who are living off of what their relatives did. They don't have any receipts. All they're going by is, well, my daddy did this, my mama did this. And so, and see, I'm finding out, and it's not only in Birmingham, but here in Birmingham, we vote on personality. We don't vote on receipts. We don't vote on experience. Well, if your daddy was a preacher, your granddaddy was a preacher, and your great granddaddy was a preacher, and you're a preacher, well, then you must be like them. And we know 9 times out of 10, the younger generation has no reputation when it comes to the community. They want the title of the job, but they don't want the responsibility of the job. So when I know of individuals who not only have the experience, who not only have the receipts, and I know that I have a platform that I can open up and they can utilize it, it's what I have to do. I have to open my platform. I have to open what was given to me to give to others, because we got to quit voting on personality. We have to start voting on reputation. We have to start voting on receipts. You have a reputation and you have the receipts. People don't know that you were even over the food bank. And so, and I think that's a travesty, because they don't give you credit where credit is due, because they don't even know that you were the one that's over the food bank, that when they needed the food and all, you were there. Your organization was there.
That's right. During the pandemic, to make sure that food got to the areas where people don't usually go to, we provided millions of pounds during the pandemic, millions of pounds of food to those people that were on the front line in their communities. See, I figure like this: if I help you get toys for your kids at Christmas, my name doesn't need to be on the tag. Your name needs to be on it. So when we gave out 50 million pounds of food across Alabama every Saturday for 2 years, when we did that, we didn't put our names on the tags in those communities in Pritchard, Alabama, in Anniston, in Gadsden, Tuscaloosa, the Black Belt, Montgomery, Colbert County up in Northeast Alabama, Huntsville. We didn't put our name on there. We needed the local churches and local organizations to be strong. They said, let us shout you out. I said, no, we don't want to put our picture and our name on these boxes and in your community. We need for you to get stronger in your community to be able to meet the needs of your community. Because here's what we know. A community is not transformed until the people of that community drive the transformational process.
Right.
So I looked at Woodlawn and what was happening in Woodlawn, and a lot of the work in Woodlawn was on the geographical area and the buildings and the brick and mortar, but not on the people. You don't transform a community by transforming buildings. And so somebody asked me, are you for this new housing project around Smithfield? And I'm for that 100%. Then they say, well, it's contradictory. No, my problem isn't to progress. My problem is to make sure that the people are on the road that's leading to progress as well, and not just the geography. So instead of making sure that the people are progressing by these urban renewal projects, they're simply building up a bypass over the people of the Western District, building a progress over people that live in the housing projects, and progress is passing them by.
Right.
So they may as well build these new apartments and condominiums and townhomes on the bypass, because there is no on-ramp for the poor. Not just the poor, the working poor. There is no on-ramp. And the people that built the bypass do not have a high incentive to build the on-ramp. So that's why I'm saying we got to do more.
Right.
We have to work, we have to elect people at every level that know the history of the struggle of self-determined, right? Becoming self-determined, and the struggle of self-determination. You have generational poverty along the I-59 corridor.
Right.
People were born into it, and they could not escape out of it. They could not move out of it because of the redlining. So somebody's got to care about the people as well as the area. So if I walk down here with my contemporaries and with many of these, our city councilors who are so happy to be a part of this, and those who grew up in the community, the West Side is the best side. As I walk with them, then we have to do like the mighty Messiah warriors do. They have a greeting when they see each other, and that greeting is, "How are the children?"
Oh, wow.
And this is the mighty Messiah tribe in Africa, known for being fierce warriors. And when they see each other, they say, "How are the children?" And the response all of the children are well.
I like that.
I'm looking for the warriors that have a heart for God and have a heart for righteousness and have a heart for the people, that when you walk in, you say, how are the children? I'm looking for that generation to awaken once more and say, how are the elderly? My campaign is not for a seat, brother. It's for an awakening of the silent majority who are trapped in their houses, man. That's what the campaign is about. Oh, you don't know how to campaign. You got yard signs with a bunch of writing on them. Brother, I'm not trying to get a seat. I'm trying to awaken a community to say, you have a choice of better. My campaign is for the awakening of the silent majority. If you're over 50 or 60, you may have been pushed out of the government sector and there's no place for you, they say, maybe in the church or whatever, but there is a place for the elders of our community for their voice to be heard. You know that. That's why you have in front of my name, not politician, not CEO, not doctor, you have elder. And when I see that in front of my name, I accept and take the responsibility that we didn't cause the problems, but we are responsible for the solutions.
Correct, right.
And it's really cool to hear some of those guys that are running starting to say that. Because when we talked about crime, the first thing that the politicrats did is not the city council's fault, it's not the mayor's fault, it's those mamas' fault. Those single, they need to get control of their children. They need some home training. Come on, guys. Leaders, elders don't pass the buck.
Right.
We're not responsible for causing the problem, but we are responsible for the solution.
But see, people don't seem to understand, or they have forgotten what the title elder means. When I was younger, I don't even remember why I remember Pastor Hicks' sermon, because I think I was about 3 or 4, maybe 5 years old. But Pastor Hicks in Montgomery over at Good Street Baptist Church.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember Good Street.
Yeah, that's where I was raised, Good Street Baptist Church. Right. So, and I remember Pastor Hicks was saying that there's a difference between an old person and an elder. An elder is chosen. You don't choose to be an elder. You're chosen to be an elder. Because when you are an elder, you are giving structure. You're being a mentor. You're giving back to the community. You are the foundation. You are the pillar. You are the one that gives knowledge, comfort, support to the younger generation. That's right. What an elder. So you have that responsibility. You don't, when you go to sleep, you don't stop being an elder. You're an elder 365 days. An old person is someone who gives nothing back to the community. If anything, they take away from the community because they don't seem to understand that you are old. You have nothing in common with this younger generation. So what you're teaching is nothing, is useless. You're making the younger generation weak because of your stupidity. But yet we have a lot of individuals who want the title of elder because they think that it comes with importance, or sort of like a peacock mentality. But they don't understand that you don't choose to be an elder. It's not just walking around with, what are you doing? What are you giving back to the community? What have you done for that next generation?
Right.
And so that, we have a lot of peacocks who want the title, but don't want the responsibility.
Wow. We like the name auntie and we like the name uncle.
Yes, sir.
I know that as I'm out here canvassing, you'll have some folks say, okay, Uncle Frank, Uncle Woodson, right? That's a loving title, auntie, uncle. And I think it's part of wanting to give the familial kind of connection, but we have to make sure that it has the responsibility of the elder generation,
right?
who
An
grown
elder has
wise
an
enough
invested
and deep
interest,
enough.
right? An elder has an invested interest in the community.
Yes, yes.
And see, and that's where the spirit of some of these communities come from the people that are in this community, because they have an invested interest in their community. They understand the importance of community. They understand, and I think that they need to come back with community centers in
Yes.
each one of the communities, so that way there is a nucleus for that community. Because that's how I was raised. Because see, things aren't any different when I was being raised than what is now. The only difference is we don't have the community rapport. We don't have the community relationship. We don't have a community center, so that when the parents are working, you don't have a place to have the kids. Because see, we didn't have any. The problems were there, but we were worked. We were played, and we were played out, so that way when we got home, we were too tired to get into trouble. And then we knew that too, if we were even thought about getting into trouble, well, Miss Gray next door knew our parents, and the parents understood, and we understood. Miss Gray could beat the hell out of us, and nothing was going to happen, because that
Well,
that was a family.
well,
But you don't have that anymore.
A lot of times people get, are upset with Section 8 people moving into the community. They say, well, they came out of projects, or they did this or that. But here's one of the things that they forgot. If the people that are on Section 8 move into the community, there needs to be a community for them to move into.
Correct. Right.
And the community elders make sure that the community stays intact. So we welcome those families into the communities.
Yes, sir.
We assimilate them into the communities.
Right.
But I've said it for years. You've known me, man. When you take the neighbor out of neighborhood, then all that's left is the hood.
That's it. Thank you.
And if neighbors are not looking out for each other, then they're not looking out for the street.
Correct.
If they're not looking out for the street, then they're not looking out for the neighbor, and thence the community.
Right.
And so we've got to begin to re-neighbor our communities. It starts with something as simple as just going next door to check on Miss Thomas.
Right.
Grandmother Ellie.
That's it. Because you always had that grandmama that was in the community. My folks worked, so I was so like a latchkey kid, because I knew that I had to come home. I had responsibilities, and Mama, you would wash your clothes. I had to hang the clothes out before I went to school. When I came home, I had to take the clothes down. I had to fold the clothes. I had to do my homework. Now, see, we had that little box type television, I think called a Philpox.
Yes.
And so I was not supposed to turn the television on. And I was always wondering why my grandparents or my parents always put the keys on top of the television. They put the keys on top of the television because once that little tube inside that television got hot, it stayed hot. So if the television was warm, they knew that I had turned the television on.
Wow.
So, but I knew too that if I did anything in the community, there was always someone watching me. Everybody knew that Evelyn and Rory was my grandparents. Everybody knew that Mama Carter and Papa Sid was my great grandparents. Everybody knew who my aunt and my uncles were. I couldn't do anything. And then I had a community center that I could go to, that had people that lived in the community, that had all these activities. I used to do ceramics. That kept me out of trouble. Used to play, and we had pools. We had every type of sport. We were too tired to do anything.
Well, we had options.
Yes.
One of the things. So I know we're coming up on the bottom of the hour. The bottom of the hour. I know our time will be up. I want to say this again. We didn't do everything perfectly. Neither did our parents, but they did some things well.
Right.
Our families need the support of our government, our communities, those of us that live in the community, we need the support of our local politicians.
Correct.
I have to be able to disagree. My city council person is Carol Clark. I like Carol Clark. She's done some good work. But it's hard for me to pretend like I don't see the debris at the crossplex that's been there for 11 years from when they tore down the grandstand next to this $46 million complex. And rebar is sticking out.
Yes, sir.
Now, this is a huge green space with a fountain in the middle and a track around it. They could be one of the most beautiful areas, a centerpiece, not just for the whole Western District of Birmingham. If they did this, it would be the most beautiful public park in the Western District of Birmingham.
Yes, sir.
But the people that do the beautification around my office downtown, that do the beautification of Railroad Park, that do the beautification of this amazing green space called City Walk, those people drive by the crossplex every day to go beautify the places over the interstate. We're going to start calling over the mountain, over the interstate. They live over the interstate. The parks over the interstate are beautiful. Railroad Park over the interstate, it's beautiful.
Yes, sir.
City Walk over the park, over the interstate is beautiful. Avondale now, over the interstate is beautiful.
Yes, sir. And how was it 5 years ago?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But when the city puts resources over in an area that they care about, then it changes. Here's the part that concerns me as an elder. To our young men and women who drive by the ruins of the crossplex to go fix up the other areas that they don't live in, it sends a message to them that we don't deserve better.
Yes, sir.
To our children that now have more mobility than we have, it sends a message to them. I want to move into the area of town where they have nice parks.
Correct.
I want to go into the areas of town where the streets are clean, the infrastructure's in place. You know, they have these little motorbikes downtown and scooters you can get on. But you can't ride it from 3rd Avenue North downtown to 3rd Avenue West over the interstate.
Yes, sir.
Because they haven't repaired the sidewalks. The sidewalks have, so there's no trail. To walk from the crossplex to downtown, you got to get your feet dirty.
Right.
Got to walk through some weeds.
Yes, sir.
Got to walk over some broken concrete. It's almost like a natural barrier between over the interstate and the Western District of Birmingham. I know that at one time that those sidewalks were intact because before they built the interstate, that was the main thoroughfare, 3rd Avenue West. They called it Highway 11.
Yes, sir.
And you'd be able to walk all the way down to go downtown and go shopping in the 4th Avenue district or whatever, but not anymore. It doesn't matter. We've got to be able to perform the autopsy without assigning blame. It doesn't matter if somebody intentionally left it broken. It doesn't matter if somebody intentionally, several mayors have left the debris now over at the crossplex. It doesn't matter if it was on purpose or unintentional.
Right.
It still sends the same message that you don't deserve better if you live over here. that you don't expect better if you live over here. I remember when William Bell was in office, I was on them every time. Why can't you beautify our gateways? Why can't you put flowers in front of the crossplex? Why are the neighborhood association officers having to write grants to put beauty bark down along the entranceways and to their places? Why are they having to do that when they're buying the stuff from the city space right behind the crossplex? We're getting grants for public services that we're getting for free downtown, brother.
Right.
It sends a message that our leaders don't believe that we deserve better in the Western District of Birmingham. I'm not talking about the mayor. I'm talking about our leaders, our county commissioners, our city council people. And when you began to teach that lesson, then even some of our police officers will begin to believe that we don't deserve better.
Right. So like a domino effect.
It is. So next time we get together, I'd love to talk about our public safety issue. Why are we down 300 officers? Why do we have a higher crime rate than Chicago, Atlanta, New Orleans, Houston? Why do we have a higher crime rate? The mayor of Houston, Sylvester, he lost his job because they went up to 3 homicides per 100,000 people.
Wow.
They couldn't bear it. Chicago is off the hook. Their murder rate is 34 per 100,000. In New Orleans, 40 something per 100,000. I think Atlanta is right at 40 per 100,000. Off the hook. Birmingham is 70 per 100,000. So when we get together again, we need to have a conversation about public safety.
So how can they help you? How can they get in touch with you?
Well, I tell you what, we got to get involved. This is bigger than a political campaign.
Yes, sir.
Visit my website, frankwoodson.com. frankwoodson.com. I think there's a page on there you can give your information, you can volunteer and the like. We can do that. And we got to get people involved. We need our elders to wake up, to get involved. We need our small businesses. And then when we talk about economic development, we're going to talk about opportunities for small businesses, nonprofits, things that are being done now. When we build the small businesses, the nonprofits, then our families get stronger.
Right.
So until next time, brother, I appreciate you. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Have a great one.
There you have it. There you have it. So frankwoodson.com, frankwoodson.com, frankwoodson.com. So please, 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 please let everybody know that Elder Frank Woodson is running for District 52. He has receipts. He's been in the community. His organization was the primary organization that during COVID fed Alabama. So he has a lot of receipts. He has all that is required to be an elder. So please, if you can, frankwoodson.com, let everybody know. I appreciate you stopping in. Again, as I told you before, know your value, know your worth, know that you control everything about you, and know that I love you more than I love my luggage. I will see y'all tomorrow. Y'all take care.